What's going on, everybody? Pulling a double header tonight. I got my main man, the Stucast. Go check out his podcast, the Stucast, on your iPhone. Hit the application button, hit the podcast section. Man, last week was the inaugural of our college football pick'em. This week, we got a new list of games. I believe Stu went 4-1, and the only game he was wrong was on the Miami Hurricanes game against Virginia Tech. Stu, what happened in that game?
Well, I think everybody on this channel watching that game knows. I mean, Miami coming into the game, we didn't know how serious the COVID issue was. A lot of starters out. 8 penalties. You know, they caught a couple questionable flags, going 6 for 17 on third down. That's not ideal if you're trying to score points. And to be brutally honest, just watching the full game, D'Eriq King, he's placing the ball exactly where it needs to be. And there was a couple plays, I forget who was running the inside post route, and I think it was in the third quarter. He beats the guy. It's a perfect pass, hits him right in the hands. He's gone for 50. If he catches it, and he drops it, just can't pull it in. It makes me wish KJ Osborne could just suit back up, because he would be over 1,000 yards and be an All-American if he was on this team.
Yeah.
So that was a bummer. I think all three of those things, I think they left points out on the field, obviously. It is what it is, but, I thought the lean on Miami, getting the points was, that was pretty easy. That was pretty easy. Even though the score doesn't indicate it, Miami's just a better team.
Hey, we'll take the win, even though.
Yeah, it's a good win.
It's a good win. Didn't end up like how we predicted, but hey, we'll take it. New week of college football. We got a nice few games to call. We'll start off with a very interesting game, Stu. We got Indiana going into Ohio State. Ohio State, this is a fairly big spread. They're favored by 20 points. Also, the over-under is 66. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Well, a little foreshadowing, what they call in the business a tease. I got a game that's over 30 points coming up later on. But, Ohio State, Indiana, this is being billed as a big game. And it is, technically, Indiana 9th in the country, Ohio State number 3, solidly number 3, I think, right now. Look, Indiana hasn't beat Ohio State in 32 years. Just hasn't happened. This Indiana team is, to my eyes, smoke and mirrors, and the 20 points reflect it. Look, they beat a 0-4 Penn State team, life and death, to beat them at home. And honestly, in overtime, rewatch the play. Did Michael Penix score a touchdown? Who knows?
I don't think so.
They beat an atrocious Michigan team. This Michigan team is god-awful for a myriad of reasons. And I thought I saw somebody earlier tonight post that Harbaugh's going to get fired this year. That's probably not going to happen. Michigan's a dumpster fire. They play Rutgers, who was in that game for most of the game. I mean, Indiana wasn't really pulling away till late in the fourth. And barring, an offensive lineman being a hair ahead of another offensive lineman on a trick play, they don't even cover the spread on that game. And then last week, my Spartans, part of that 4-1, I said reverse line it, make that a positive equity play, and or at least suggested it. And Indiana, that game was over at halftime. Michigan State just isn't – it's not a D1 Big Ten football program right now. Ohio State is going to come into this. They can exploit the run. They can exploit the pass. They're not going to get stopped offensively. Defensively, Indiana struggles to run the ball. Indiana is going to rely on Michael Penix. I have no inclination toward one way or the other. I know a lot of people out there really like Indiana getting the points. I would stay away from it. I would have more of a look at the over-under, because in Ohio State games, look back at the Penn State game. Penn State, an 0-4 team, they're getting embarrassed every week, and yet that game hit over 55, over 57 actually. So I think Indiana's a little bit ahead of Penn State offensively. I think 66 is a fair number, and I would take a look at the over there.
Yeah, I'm not buying into the Indiana top 10 hype. Like you said, that Penn State game, I truly thought he did not get into the end zone. They could have a couple losses. They're going into Columbus. This is a very good Ohio State football team, and they may get off to a slow start overall. They may not hit the over. I don't think they reach a total of 66 points, but ultimately I do think Ohio State wins with a pretty contempt lead throughout the game. I'm not buying into this Indiana hype. I think Ohio State does cover the spread, and I'm going to take Ohio State in this football game. Stu, are you with me on that?
Yeah, if you force me to pick a side, I would give Ohio State out. What's interesting about the Big Ten is that Ohio State, and they picked up tonight Quinn McEwers, the number one player in the nation in the 2022 class. He was originally committed to Texas. He opts out of Texas, which is crazy. And then now he's going to Ohio State. The rich keep getting richer. They are so talent-wise, coaching-wise, they are so far and beyond what anybody else, including Wisconsin, who we'll talk about in a second. It's scary. It's not even comparable to Clemson, because Miami can always make a move. North Carolina is starting to make moves recruiting wise. Not happening in the Big Ten.
Let's move over. Wisconsin, Northwestern. This is an interesting game, in my opinion. The spread is 7 points favoring Wisconsin. This is an undefeated Northwestern football team. I think the game is going to be played at Northwestern in Chicago. What are your thoughts about this game, Stu? Wisconsin looks very impressive so far in the season. They completely annihilated Michigan. I think they win this game more than 7 points. I personally have Wisconsin dominating this football game all 4 quarters.
Not so fast, my friend. Look, both these teams we gave out last week because they had beautiful matchups. Wisconsin, in the last 2 games against Michigan, has rushed for over 700 yards. Okay? That's unbelievable. Wisconsin had a short week. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a bigger indictment on Michigan, but they had a shortened week. They only had a couple of days of practice, like actual practice. And they showed up to Ann Arbor, and they literally ran about 4 or 5 different plays. Graham Mertz didn't even have to throw the ball. I think he had like 140 yards passing. They ran jet sweeps. They ran fullback dives. They ran power sweeps, and they decimated Michigan. Northwestern is, I'm going to say, the best defense in the Big Ten. Northwestern. I called that before the season. I'm sticking with it. Patty Fisher and that defense is this is a Pat Fitzgerald team. Now, last year, a horrible 3-9 Northwestern team. I mean, they couldn't move the ball offensively against, an 8th grade, JV team. They kept it very close in Madison. I mean, they stopped Jonathan Taylor. All right. They stopped Quintez Cephas. There was some very bad turnovers. They were in the game. They just couldn't move the ball. Not because Wisconsin D was just so amazing. It's just because their offense is horrible. It's atrocious last year. This year, much more competent. They're moving the ball a lot more in the style that Fitzgerald wants to do it. look, this is Northwestern's season. This is their big test. If they get past this hump, it's smooth sailing. They got, my Spartans next week. There is not another test here. Northwestern getting the points, that would be my play here.
All right. Stu's going to go with Northwestern. They are the underdog by 7 points. I'm going to go with Wisconsin. It's going to be interesting how that game is played out moving forward. Look, Stu, I'm sorry. I think, Pat Fitzgerald is, I understand he's at Northwestern. It's a very comparable program is Duke football. I'm not a Chicago guy. I'm not from the Midwest. I'm from Miami. I'm born and raised there. I lived there for 23 years. I've only been to Chicago one time, but I'm not the biggest fan of Pat Fitzgerald. I think he's very overrated. I understand you have a lot to work with. Northwestern is nowhere near, football town per se to get recruits to come. Obviously, it's a great academic institute, but I don't know what the hype is about Pat Fitzgerald. I mean, maybe he turned nothing out of something in Northwestern. I don't know. Maybe you're more of a Midwestern guy.
Yeah. So when you look historically at Northwestern football, and yes, Duke is a comparable kind of setup. Stanford, to a certain extent, a comparable type setup. You got to realize Northwestern in the 70s went like 4 or 5 years without winning a single game. I mean, not one game. This program has always been, for the most part, a doormat in the Big Ten because they can't recruit, because it's Northwestern. They just have bad juju written all over them. Now they get a player here and there that's a solid player. 95, they put it together. I'm remembering the Darnell Autry team. I mean, that went to the Rose Bowl. But they really haven't had any glimmers. Pat took over this team, and this team has consistently been not only a bowl team, a winning record team, went to a Big Ten championship. Just an impressive setup, especially when you're going against all these big bad guys who want those Chicago kids, because Chicago is a pretty solid football town. And Pat's able to still get talent, and he coaches talent. He takes 2 stars, he makes them 4. He takes 3s, he makes them 5s. That's what he does. And that's the trick to the Big Ten. Mark D'Antonio did it. Pat's doing it. Kirk Ferentz has done it in the past. That's how you survive. He's a survivor. He's like Destiny's Child. I think if he ever decided to leave Northwestern, he would get a big primetime gig.
I'm back, Stu.
All right, no worries. Did you hear my spiel?
No, I got completely disconnected. If that's the matter, I will Zoom record this, but let's keep it going.
All right.
Pat Fitzgerald, you state your case. They were a deadbeat program in the 70s. He's doing a tremendous job compared to the past. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It's Northwestern football, man. You can't give them too much attention. All right, let's move over to the Big 12, Stu. Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma. Man, I'll be honest with you. When have we been in a time where Oklahoma State is the better football team ranked wise than Oklahoma? They're still underdogs in this game. Oklahoma's favored by 7. The over-under is 59.5. Stu, what are your thoughts about this game? Personally, I think this is Oklahoma's year once again to beat Oklahoma State.
Yeah, Bedlam's always fun to watch. I mean, historically, it's had its ups and downs, but Oklahoma's really owned the last 11 games, going 9-2 against the spread. Coming into this game, I don't have stats for this. This isn't a stat game to me. Some games are just like that. I'm going with the eyeball test. Oklahoma State, its last 2 games, lost a game they should have won against Texas, barely, and I mean barely, beat Kansas State. And Kansas State is in a lot of trouble right now. Tons of injuries, tons of guys that are sitting out. They've lost a lot of starters. Kansas State's in a real bad shape. And Oklahoma State was life and limb to beat them. Chuba Hubbard, their all-everything running back, he has not been good this year. L.D. Brown, the guy who stepped in and has produced, he's injured. He's questionable for the game. Spencer Sanders has really been limited. Last year, he put up 600 yards on the ground. Through this season, he's only at about 100. And one of those was in the Iowa State game. He got about 70 yards rushing. So he's really been hampered by the ankle injury he got against Tulsa week 1. Look, Oklahoma State has been really poor offensively. Their defense has really stepped up. But I think with Oklahoma, they really found something in Stevenson at running back. Rattler's getting into his own shoes. They're passing the ball more effectively. You're seeing that Oklahoma style that's been developed over the past few years. I really like Oklahoma here. I think they're going to win this ball game and cover that spread.
Yeah, I mean, look, Oklahoma, they had some tough early losses to Iowa State, to Kansas State. I mean, they could fairly be undefeated right now. If they beat Oklahoma State this Saturday, they can turn this season around, finish with a very nice record, win a bowl game. I haven't lost faith in Lincoln Riley. Everybody and their mom, 2 back-to-back losses. They thought the Lincoln Riley era was over at Oklahoma. The wheels were falling off. Spencer Rattler has already thrown for 2,000 passing yards, 18 TDs, 6 INTs. Like you said, their offense is coming around, starting to become your traditional Oklahoma offense with great quarterback play like we've seen in the past. I think Oklahoma turns the corner. I think they beat Oklahoma State. I'm going with the spread. I think they win more than 7 points. So I also think that over-under, you take it. You take it because they're going to put up a offensive power.
You know what's funny about that, too, is a lot of people, I've heard the same comments, but people don't realize this is a rebuilding year for Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
This is a rebuilding year. They won't ever say it, but they got to retool, right? You lose CD Lamb, you lose Trey Sermon, you lose these pieces. Yeah, Jalen. I mean, you got to retool, and that's what they're doing.
Stu, never in my life would I ever think we would be talking about this next game. App State going into Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. This sounds like spring break, to be honest.
The Chanticleers, baby. Hey, the guy from Girls Gone Wild, he's going to be there. He's being the inaugural coin toss guy.
You got to love it, man. Just good old college football in Myrtle Beach. Coastal Carolina, I think they are favorite by 4 points to win this game. Or I think it moved to 5 points. Could be wrong on that. But, man, what are your thoughts? This is not a bad App State football team. They are 6-1. Obviously, Coastal Carolina 7-0, probably the best record they've ever had. App State's they're a scrappy little mid-major program. Do not be surprised if they pull off the upset. They lost by 10 to a pretty good Marshall football team that is ranked right now. Yeah. What are your thoughts about this game?
You know what a Chanticleer is?
I have no idea.
It's a turkey.
I have no idea. It's a turkey.
Yeah, it's weird. South Carolina has like the weird between the Gamecocks, the Chanticleers. It's just I don't
get the flag.
I don't get what they're doing down there. Look, and another thing, if you haven't seen the uniforms that App State is wearing this weekend, they're absolute fire. I mean, they look incredible. If this is a uniform game, you pick App State. But my rationale on this and why I like the Chanticleers here, both teams are very adept at running the ball. You watch both these teams, they're going to run. They're going to run it down your throat. App State, their quarterback Howard, starting quarterback, He got injured late in the game last week against Georgia State. Their starting running back also got injured. He's going to be out for the rest of the year. They still managed to put up some numbers against Georgia State. But my problem is in that game, App State was favored by 16. And I liked App State last week. And that's primarily because Georgia State's defense is not that great. It's not that great. And yet drives got stalled, drives got stopped. App State's defense is solid, but when they played Marshall, they got some problems. When they played a real team, they got some problems. The Chanticleers have proven that they are a very strong team, And I think that with this momentum they've got, they're ranked, they're at home. App State's missing their quarterback. I think it's going to be a sweat bet type game if you're going out there and you're betting it. I like the Chanticleers to cover the 4.5. I'm going to be sweating like I'm Horace Grant and I pissed off Michael Jordan. Like, that's where I'm at.
The Chanticleers, man. Gotta love it. Gotta love the name. God,
it's beautiful.
And in honor of Thanksgiving coming up, man, why not take the Chanticleers? I'm going with the upset Stucast. I got the App State Mountaineers going into Myrtle Beach, beating Coastal Carolina. Hey, last time they probably beat a top-ranked team was probably Michigan off the top of my head going into the big house. Why not do it again? Why not?
Yeah, I love how this pod always turns into like us bashing Michigan. I don't know. It's a lot of fun. They are the most arrogant group of people in college football. Believe it or not.
The crazy thing is that I don't ever think Miami has ever crossed paths with Michigan to my memory at all. So I've never like really cared about Michigan. I just don't like Jim Harbaugh. So
I know you guys spanked us like in the early 90s, late 80s in East Lansing. I want to say you played Michigan in the 80s, but I'm not certain.
Gotcha. Past my time, man. I'm a 94 kid. Dude, speaking of Michigan State, man, if I get Dan Enos ever on this channel, that would probably be my most epic, greatest show ever. Just having Dan Enos on my show. I don't think he'll ever do it. But I would literally have the biggest smile on my face. Dan, what happened?
Oh, yeah. If you're referring to the Michigan State gig, that's another like hour-long show. I really am waiting for the book to come out because Mark D'Antonio, in a nutshell, built that program into national respectability and then proceeded to around 2015 dismantle it in every way possible and sabotage it to the point where we are right now.
Hey,
it's an amazing story. If anybody wants to go research it, it's pretty incredible. But yeah, Dan would be a fun talk. I would tune in for that.
Gotta love it, man. We'll get Dan Enos on soon. Don't worry. I'll pull the string. Stu, let's get into our pick of the week. I know you got a special matchup in the conference, USA. What do you got for us?
Well, yeah, I'm going to give out a couple here, some rapid-fire ones. Talked about line movement last week. Whenever you see a team open up as a favorite and then the line crosses and now the other team's a favorite here, that's something to key on. LSU opened as 2-point dogs. Now they're 2-point favorites. That's a game that, hold on to your seat. If you're just looking for that kind of movement, it's only happened a few times the past few weeks, but it's been successful when it does. So I do like LSU. I gave you that 30-point game. Florida laying 31.5 against the Commodores of Vanderbilt. Here's the reasoning behind this. Take out all the scores or whatever. About 2 years ago, when Florida was playing Vandy, Dan Mullins and Derek Mason got into it. They got into a big fight. Last year in the Swamp, Florida was up 49-0 and throwing touchdowns late in the fourth. Florida is Dan Mullins doesn't forget. This Vandy team cannot stop a cold. Florida is going to romp on them, and it's not going to be pretty. I like Florida. Cincinnati, best defense in the country. They're laying 6 to UCF. Respect the Golden Knights. It's a great offense, but this Bearcats defense is suffocating teams. They suffocated SMU, Memphis. No points in the second half. They're not giving up anything in the second half. Last week, they're putting on a show, 55 points against ECU. They could have stopped scoring. They want to score. I love this for wagering purposes, or if you're going to throw something out there. Cincinnati's the kind of team you want to back every week because they'll put it on them. I think Luke Fickell's trying to make a case for that, playoff. Hey, we beat all these teams by 1 billion points, so we deserve to get in. Follow that team to the promised land. In this Conference USA game, now I can't take full credit for it. My friend Chris Van Dyne on the podcast, he's from North Coast Sports, and folks, $10, get the power sweep through North Coast Sports. It's fantastic, great tool, a lot of stats, a lot of numbers, a lot of in-depth information that is just really hard to research. The Roadrunners of Texas San Antonio are going to play Southern Miss. Paul, are you up to date on your Southern Miss Golden Eagle football intel?
I do not at all. UTSA, that's one of those schools I kind of forgot existed. I got nothing on Southern Miss and UTSA going at it.
So Southern Miss, they are on their third head coach this season. Their defensive coordinator, who is the third one they've had this year, he just got put on administrative leave. Their starting quarterback got hurt. Their backup got hurt. And now they're on a third string transfer, kid that really, got cut from West Virginia. UTSA is actually a really solid little team for what it is. I mean, it's not blowing out the doors of anybody. Really good. But Southern Miss might be one of the 3-4 worst teams in the country right now. It's a really bad situation. I feel bad for the kids that are in it, but UTSA, they put up 56 on a really good, well, I shouldn't say really good, much improved UTEP team. They've won some big games. They can put up points. They're laying 9. That's a play from the show. UTSA, Conference USA. Who doesn't love Conference USA? Let's get after it.
Stu, you got your pick of the week. I'm going to go with mine. Liberty heads into Raleigh, North Carolina to take on NC State. I am obsessed with this Hugh Freeze offense. Regardless of what he did at Ole Miss, I think he's a great head coach. I think South Carolina, if they want to roll the dice, go hire Hugh Freeze. He'll create that South Carolina football program that is very well funded, but is very mediocre when it comes to the wins and losses. Worst hire of the century was Will Muschamp. You go out, you hire Hugh Freeze. NC State is favored by 3.5 points. Liberty is going to upset NC State in Raleigh, North Carolina. Mark my words. Hugh Freeze will get that big win. Liberty, that is a solid football team. I love what he's doing over there. That is my pick of the week.
Willis is an amazing quarterback. Yeah, but I will say, just from looking at the number, it's a weird number. It's a weird number because people are going to look at this and go, oh, man, I'm taking Liberty. They just beat the heck out of Vatek. In overtime, they just demolished Syracuse. NC State's a competent football team. They can do something. Can Liberty do what they did against Vatek? I mean, I don't know. It's a game. God bless you for playing it. The number scares the hell out of me. I don't want to bet NC State, and I don't like the number enough to bet Liberty. But hey, I like it head to head. I like this. Roadrunners, Flames. Let's see who wins.
Gotta love it, Stu. Stu, where can everyone watching right now or in the future when they hit play can find you?
Yeah, so thank you for that. Wherever you get your podcasts, Google, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you're listening, we're there talking everything from obviously college football, college basketball. We got all the major sports. We even have horses running around in circles. We cover that too. Anything you want, it's there. Come check us out. Give us a spin, and hopefully we do right by you.
Gotta love Stu, man. I've never met someone this knowledgeable about so many different kinds of sports. I mean, you got horse racing, college basketball, Major League Baseball. He even got into pro bass fishing. That's another story for another day. He's wearing the 1983 Arizona Wildcats
88,
final. 88. Got 5 years later.
Right.
Right. They're probably going to be they're going to get the death penalty in a couple of years. It's all good, man. You know,
Isn't it great? Isn't it great? I mean, so what's great about that is that we always knew Arizona was dirty. I mean, I know the stories firsthand from people that was there. I mean, we know Dollar Bill Self out in Kansas is dirty. LSU's just openly dirty. It's fun times. College basketball is so fun.
Gotta love it, man. Hey, listen, man, I'm telling you, I'm calling it. Rick Pitino will be the next head coach at the University of Miami. You heard it here, Stu. Calling it right now.
That's a heck of a move from Iona. I hope he has a good season there to sell that one.
I mean, hey, man. Well, you know what's even a bigger move than that? Going from Kentucky to Louisville. That's even more radical.
Hey, the Cardinals got the big bags out. There were some bags dropped on some church doorsteps, man.
I view that as Urban Meyer going from Ohio State to Michigan. That's the way I view that.
It's close. It's close, but that's a huge thing. It's different.
You're right. Louisville has more history than Michigan in football.
One's a rivalry, the other isn't. I guess that's the thing.
Okay. Yeah, you're right, because Michigan never wins. They always lose to Ohio State. So, yeah, that is fair to say. Stu, once again, man, hell of a job. Let's see how we do this week. Last week, you went 4-1. I'm going to take notes on my predictions, see how I stack up, because I know we went differently in a couple games. So, it'll be interesting how everything pans out, man. But, Stu, check this guy out, man. The Stucast. Hell of a job, Stu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
All right, guys, and hope everyone has a great rest of their day.